All right, we are jumping back into, it is loud, isn't it? Let's turn her down a little bit. Is that better? That works a little nicer? All right, so yesterday we finished up with the actual cells that make up connective tissue. We had the fibroblast that was making the fibers, right? Blasting the fibers out. That's what I think of as bazooka-like thing. The macrophages that are eating all of the trash, all the debris, the cellular debris, the bad things, foreign particles, right? So like the trash collector, but it eats the trash instead of just moving it. And then the mast cells that produce two things, histamine and heparin. Histamine, remember that's allergic reactions. Your body's response to that allergen. And heparin was the thing that makes your blood clot, right? Right. Prevents the blood clotting. Excuse me. Did I say it makes it clot? Yeah. Yes. Prevents it clotting in your body just normally. Does that make sense? When we talked yesterday about that dichotomy of you want it to clot as soon as you cut yourself, but you don't want it to clot in your body, because that would be a slight problem. Okay? So today we're going to roll through some of these connective tissues. The first one is areolar tissue. And this is basically that connective tissue that's all in between everything. I called it yesterday the fascia, right? That's just kind of in between all the muscles and all the organs, and it's everywhere, right? And you can see that it's got these long fibers, these thick fibers. Those are the collagen fibers, what actually makes the connective tissue. And there's maybe a couple little of these elastic fibers, but it's mostly just the fibers the fibroblast produces. Okay? Then we had the adipose tissue, which is basically, right, just holding those fat cells, those lipids, that's storing the extra glucose that we've eaten. And those you can just tell by that nice yellow color, and they are just kind of all over the place. I mentioned yesterday about my lovely cadaver in our Marge. Marge was her name. Yeah, at least that was what we named her, Marge. I don't know what it was. Yeah, they don't tell you. They don't tell you what their names are. Because she was a very large woman, 300 plus pounds, lots of adipose tissue, lots of places. Here's dense connective tissue is our next one as we move along. Can you see how compact this is? Look how that is compared to just that areolar tissue. Okay? Certainly there are still some fibers there, but this is just smashed together. Very strong tissue. So where they say that this is found mostly is in the ligaments and the tendons of your body. Ligaments join two bones together. So you've heard like the ACL, anterior cruciate ligament. Okay? That basically goes from the posterior side of the superior part of the tibia, the very top of the tibia, and comes across underneath to the anterior side of the inferior surface of your femur. You with me? I suppose I should probably use distal and proximal rather than superior and inferior. Okay? So it goes from back here to up here. And the point of that is it keeps, when I plant my leg, it keeps my femur from just continuing to move forward. Does that make sense? So that's oftentimes how athletes will tear, is they plant and turn, and the force is just too much, and it tears that ligament. Okay? My research, actually, when I was in PT school, they had found at that point, it was fairly new research, that they had found receptors on that ligament for the hormone estrogen. And so they had noticed continually that female athletes were more likely to tear their ACL when they were on their period. Or actually right before is what they said. It seemed to be, because this is a very regular occurrence, right? Stay with me now. And so they were trying to figure out, is there some reason why this is the case? They found these receptors, these estrogen receptors on this thing, and they wondered if that didn't change the structure slightly, make it weaker during that time. So our research, what we did is we had this group of, it was about 35 ladies that we worked with, and there's a test, there's a urine test you can take that shows when your estrogen spikes, because that's when you're the most fertile. So women who are trying to get pregnant, you can take these tests and see that spike in estrogen, and that's then when you want to try and get pregnant, to try and if you're having difficulties having a baby. So we had them use these tests for this certain period of days to see when that spike was, and we have this little machine that can measure how loose the knee was, like how much give that ligament had. Overall, our study did not show any significant, like total change for everybody, but with different women, there were definite laxity things. Some of them, it was very obvious. You would test them one day, and their knee was this much play, and then you test it the next day, and wow, a whole lot more. So it was very interesting to see that, okay, for that person, certainly they'd be more at risk for that ligament tearing during that time when the estrogen was so high. Could be. Yeah, you messed up your knee, right? Good. So again, dense connective tissue is the tissue that makes up those ligaments as well as the tendons. Tendon is the muscle joining to the bone. So ligaments are bone to bone. Tendons are muscle to bone. Okay, it's the attachment for the muscle to the bone. Next type of connective tissue is hyaline cartilage. That's what this, on the skeleton here, this clear part in the very front, that's what that is. It's hyaline cartilage. It's not actually bone. You can, yeah. You can break these bones too, the bones that are here. But we're talking about specifically this little cartilage in the middle there. It gives a little more flexibility. Bones are pretty rigid. But this gives a little more flexibility because, of course, your chest has to expand and contract as you breathe, right? So it gives a little more play there, a little more movement. You can see that because it's a cartilage, it has these things called chondrocytes. You don't have to know this, but that just gives you that information, those little kind of circle blobby things. Next, we're at elastic cartilage. So this would be what your ears are made of. And you're comfortable that this cartilage is kind of stretchy. You can move it around. The tip of your nose is elastic cartilage. Some of us have more there than others, but yeah, that is what that is. That kind of stretchy, kind of bendy, kind of able to move around.
Something different.
Good. And again, you can see these nice chondrocytes here, right? Those nice circular chondrocytes. This is the last. Is the last connective tissue? No, because bone is connective tissue as well, is it? Isn't it? Yeah. Here we have fibrocartilage. And you can see that you have these strands, right? The fibers, the collagen fibers. But then you also have the chondrocytes that are present there. Where is this located? In the discs. The discs that are between the vertebrae of your spine. So if we look on the skeleton here, it'd be these guys right here. And those are like the shock absorbers. They basically, they've got kind of a really thick outside and kind of like a jelly-ish on the inside. And it's a shock absorber. So as I take a step, all that force goes up through my spine. And this is kind of cushioning that. Those discs can lose height. They're very much water-based. When they lose their height, then it can pinch those nerves. I'll show you on the skeleton here. I don't know how well you can see this, but right here in this corner, there's these open little holes there. Can you see them? These little holes, that's where the nerves come out from your spine. They go in right next to those discs. So I'm sure you've heard people talk about a pinched nerve or a slipped disc. That's what they're talking about. That little nerve bulges and pinches on that, the disc bulges and pinches on that nerve, and yeah, it causes pain. Pain in your back, pain down your leg, numbness, tingling, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, it's good times. Yeah, that's even funner. Even funner. Okay. Last but not least, connective tissue. Actually, sorry, there's two more kinds of tissues. You have bone. And by the way, there's a lovely table on page 109 of these different tissues. Bone, I think, is the easiest one of all of these to remember. Oops, push the button. Someone said it looked like something when it was on the quiz here we just gave. It was like trees. Yeah, that's what I see when I see that. Nice center ring with all the different pieces around. Okay? Shh. And we'll talk much more about this when we get to the skeletal system. Shh. But this is a form of connective tissue. So it's in the bones. It makes you chuckle that they colored the whole body. It's everywhere. It's in all the bones. We don't usually think of blood as being a tissue, but it is. Because remember, a tissue is just a collection of cells that are performing a certain task. And the blood definitely fits in that. Okay? So this is just a nice peek. You can see the white blood cells, though they're kind of this bluish color here. And then the red blood cells are the main ones you see. Platelets are basically like little pieces of those red blood cells. We'll talk much more about it. There's a whole chapter on blood in our book, in our cardiovascular system. Any questions over connective tissue? It really is. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. There really is really nothing else here. Okay. Remember, 4 main types of tissue. What are they? What was the first type of tissue we talked about? Epithelium. Okay, and we got all those stratified and pseudostratified and simple, columnar and cuboidal and squamous. And then we moved into our connective tissue, all those different kinds, the dense connective tissue and the cartilage and the bone and the blood. What's our third type of tissue? Muscle. Okay, and we have 3. Fairly simple, actually. Only 3 types of muscles that you have to know and that we have. The first one is called skeletal muscle. This is when you think of muscles, this is what you think of. Okay? This is the muscle that makes up, this is a picture here of your quadriceps. Okay? So that'd be this muscle right here. It's actually 4 muscles together. You'll learn that in the future. But that's your quadriceps. So the main muscles, your biceps, your pecs, your glutes, all of that main muscles, that's skeletal muscle. Sir?
So we don't have to, I see you skipped the membrane.
I did, yes. Do not. Do not. Yes, you do not have to know it. How you can tell it's skeletal muscle, friends, are these things that they call striations. Can you see how it just looks striped?
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to know that you have a skeletal muscle. It's this very striped kind of look to it. Compare that with this. This is smooth muscle. It kind of looks like little fishes, doesn't it? When I see that's what I was thinking. Little tadpoles, there you go. But these are just kind of these thin, not nearly grouped as tightly together muscle tissue. Yes, ma'am?
Are we going to just have to identify the tissues or also like the little parts?
No, the only parts that I mentioned you have to know specifically on the bottom of the study guide.
Include like nucleus, cytoplasm?
No, does not. Does not. Mm-hmm. Okay, so where is smooth muscle formed or found? Smooth muscle is found in all the places that you can't actually cognitively control. So if I tell you to lift your arm up, can you lift your arm up?
No.
Wow, oh, some of you have some difficulty with that one, maybe especially you with this sling on, right? But yes, good. But in other words, you have conscious control. That is skeletal muscle. Okay? So now I ask you this. Please digest your food. Go. I have, yes. Okay. It's good. Hopefully not too much evidence of that coming out. But yes. It's good. No, it's good. It's good. So yes, smooth muscle is found all through the digestive system. From the moment you swallow, which is a cognitive thing, right? So you have skeletal muscles that are controlling that actual swallow. Once that food goes into your esophagus, that esophagus is lined with these smooth muscles that push the food down into your stomach. Once it gets digested a little bit in your stomach, there's actually a squeeze that happens that pushes that food out into the small intestine. And then all through that tube, it just kind of squeezes, kind of like a wave, to help push that food through the system, absorbing the nutrients until eventually into the large intestine, it gets pushed again some more, and then comes out. It is very much like a conveyor belt, but more like she squeezes, then you squeeze, and she squeezes, and to push it down. Does that make sense? Like a toothpaste tube. Beautiful. Nice thought. Okay? It's good. So 3 types of muscle, right? Skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and then the combination of the two is the cardiac muscle. Cardiac is heart, right? So this is its own special type of muscle. It is similar to skeletal muscle, as it has those same striations, but it also has these very clear breaks, these lines here that they call the intercalated discs. And that's really the key to recognizing the difference between the the skeletal muscle and the cardiac muscle. Those discs, those lines. Plus, it's also not nearly as packed as this is, right? It's kind of squished together, whereas this is a little more smooth, muscly looking, right? But it has the stripes. So it's like the in-between them. Are you with me, my friends? 3 types of muscles. Skeletal, which you can cognitively control. Smooth muscle, which you cannot. And the heart the same way. Cardiac muscle, you cannot. I can't tell you, okay, stop beating your heart, go. No, it can't. You can kill yourself, but that's not actually stopping your heart, right? The heart stops because you did some other stupid thing, right? Are you with me, my friends? Any questions here? Good. Good news is only one more left. 4 types of tissue, right? Epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. And this is your simplified version of what a nerve looks like. We're going to spend much more time on how these guys look and what they do. But it kind of looks like a star-ish kind of thing, or maybe an octopus-looking kind of thing. Okay. And you can see that the picture here is showing that it's all throughout all the nerves, in your brain, your spinal cord, all those kind of places. Okay, sure. Very, very aquatic looking. Good. All right, I am going to pause here. Actually, I'm going to stop here.